Cheers, guys. Apex911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for July 5th, 2016. I left you guys with a shorter video yesterday, basically going over the parts for my virtual reality upgrade. I'm only doing it, I was just getting sick and tired of the Vive error messages and, of course, Oculus Rift's compatibility check. Granted, it's a 5-year-old motherboard and bridge, Sandy Bridge, plus CPU. It was more than adequate. Most games, aren't CPU challenged. But for some reason, it didn't want it. Maybe it has unique things, technology-wise that it needs the newer processor for. Fair enough, whatever. Either way, I did the upgrade. I'm happy I did because now I kind of have, a higher-end machine. Obviously not high-end compared to high-end machines that are out there, but high-end for me. And then I've got kind of the more baseline machine there for entry-level VR. So I'll really be able to play the two off of each other, when I'm doing gaming content or testing things. So looking forward to that. Now, no sooner did I get started, I'm going through let's start with the video first. So I finished the video, upload the video, and I get about half a dozen of you messaging me. One of my employees, you idiot, you got the 850 drive SSD speed, basically. I was like, oh crap, really? This isn't something I've installed at work, used at home, and frankly, I've just been too busy with life, leisure. Usually I research that stuff. This one just totally bypassed me, right? For whatever reason. So I should have got the 950. So you guys were absolutely correct. I should have. But whatever. You know what? I have it now. And it's, they're cute little things. They're what I always maintain SS drives should be. And that's basically like laptop DIMMs. Because really, they're memory sticks, right? I know the case was designed to kind of keep the look and feel and aesthetics of a 2.5-inch drive, but you don't need all that, right? It can be even smaller. So this gives me 3 SSD drives. I've got that one, 256 gig for system, like the OS, and then I've got 2 more 256 gig drives for gaming. So good enough. I may RAID them, I may not, we'll see. And then I've got a data drive that does backups. And then I've got a RAID array external that does the backup of the backup. A little paranoid, yeah. I've been burned way too many times, guys, with crashes, Exchange servers, and SQL servers dying on me. So I've become very, very cautious with upgrading, or backing up, I mean. So yeah, thanks. You guys were absolutely correct. But I'll stick with this one. It's fast enough for now. And the other thing was I'm going through the components, and I realized I didn't get a fan. So I had to go back to the store. 6600K doesn't come with one, and I just applied the thermal paste too. It's like, oh, damn. Anyways, hour and a half later, finally done, installed the OS. Almost done, just got to install Vive. So after this video, I'm gonna get cracking on that so I can start working on a lot of that content I was talking about. So on to the news. So, interesting article in Fortune magazine about the HTC and supposed sales figures, which I thought was really cool. They mentioned the number 100,000. At first blush, that doesn't sound impressive, right? But let's look at it within the context of what it is. Let's look at it as a standalone, and let's look at it, alongside the Rift as, sales for a market in general. When looked at alone, remember, this is an expensive piece of kit. The Canadian price is $1,300 all in. If you look at it that way, plus it's not proven technology. Those are significant barriers to entry for most people, right? Or maybe not most people, but a lot of people. And reason enough to hold off. Despite that, they have 100,000 in sales. Now let's look at the other side of it. How many sales the Rift potentially has. Let's assume just super conservatively, ultra conservatively, 100,000. Just on par with what the Vive's done, right? They had 100,000 units ready for launch. They sold them all. Fair enough. Now we're talking about 250,000, right? Or close to 250,000. And you got to look at that within the context of what this is, unproven technology. Granted, consoles in an established kind of technology and an established cycle, they can manage high hundreds of thousands, low millions of sales launch week, right? Can't make that same comparison. Look at it slightly differently, right? Xbox and PlayStation 4 combined, ongoing month to month, average about 500,000 units combined, right? If you look at it that way, for 3 months, really one financial quarter, 250,000, it's not too bad. We got to see what unfolds, but most of all, and this is why personally, whether you like Sony, whether I do or not, Sony VR is a moot point. We need it to succeed, right? The Sony Playstation is going to do a lot of marketing for us. It's going to do what a lot of you have been reporting to me, and that's showing up. HMDs are showing up like VR in electronics boutiques, GameStops, and I talked about it needs to be out there in kiosks, in malls. Well, what's the ultimate marketer for that for us? Would be Sony, right? Granted, they're only interested in their own sales, fine. But if they are successful, VR by extension will be successful. And just as you guys know, for every skeptical person that's tried it on, that you've given the HMD to, maybe they haven't, walked away high-fiving, swearing to buy one, but they certainly, I think most of you have agreed, weren't as skeptical to begin with, right? And some downright positive that, holy crap, they couldn't envision it because it's an experience. And the best marketing is trying it. And that's what Sony's going to be able to do, because there's not much chance probably that the Sony person, the person that bought that VR, is going to buy a PC one. But friends and family that are inevitably going to try PlayStation VR, they just may be so impressed that they realize, look, it's a compelling experience over there in the PC side of things. That's the direction I want to go. So I think the spin-off of that is huge. And that's why I think, regardless of what you feel about Sony, we kind of got to get behind them on that. We need this to be successful. That gets me into the next topic, which was a news article. Again, I'll link them all below. I owe some links for the last one still. Jeff Popst from a company called Hidden Path did an interview about his company, and they've done Counter-Strike, Global Surveillance, Global Offensive, Age of Empires HD. They've got some successful titles under their belt. Where I get worried is exclusivity. And we're going to talk about exclusivity and why I think it's a bad thing. The company has said they've gone 100% VR. And you know what? They haven't done that on sales. They've done that because Facebook has lined their pockets. Let's be real. That's the reason. Facebook gave them the funds to go 100% VR. They're not living off of some war chest that they've amassed with fortunes from software, believe me. That's just not the reality, right? And the reason I'm pretty sure that's the case, can't prove it obviously, is exclusivity. They launched Defense Grid as an exclusive Rift experience. And that's the one danger I see for PC VR. In my opinion, it should be like buying a video card. So no matter what vendor you buy, whether it's NVIDIA or AMD, it's going to work for your game. It's got to be about the game. And VR, regardless of which solution you get, needs to work for the game. There's plenty of room for these guys as competitors still. Healthy competition aside. But whatever solution you have should work for each game. And Sony being successful is going to probably delay the inevitable if exclusivity continues, right? It'll probably delay it because it's going to create enough sales that even if there's a clear loser, they're going to be able to hang on for that much longer, right? Without that exclusivity, they got more of a chance. If it works just regardless of what you get, there doesn't have to be a casualty. Both can survive and thrive in the marketplace. That's kind of how I see it. That's my opinion of it. You know, you go back and you look at the early 90s, right? That VR experience was just so different. You can't even compare it to now. There was really no competition, but there was no technology. The technology we now have to make it possible. So we've got to look at the other stuff. And I think exclusivity, in that sense, is not a good thing for PC VR. Interested in what you guys think. Let me know if you agree, disagree. I think it's a good discussion. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got a company like Dreams, who are working on a game called The Assembly. Multi-platform launch. It's going to launch on Vive and it's going to launch on Rift day one, right? And what I like about this is when we play cockpit games like Elite and DCS and Eve Valkyrie or Project Cars, they haven't changed the game formula. The genre is still racing, simulation, space trade, RPG, whatever. They haven't changed that. They've enhanced it, right? They've made the cockpit experience more immersive and more enjoyable, but they haven't fundamentally changed the underlying game. With virtual reality and this game, The Assembly, when I read that article, I couldn't peg a genre. It sounded a little bit arcade, it sounded a little bit puzzle, and the basic premise is you're an employee of a company and you slowly start to unravel clues about what they really do versus what you thought they did. So while it sounds a little bit like an adventure game, this is going to be so unique and has the potential to be a whole new genre of movie meets adventure game. Whatever. I don't even know what we would call that, but that alone has me excited because how long has it been since we've had a new genre? It's been decades. Everything is a retread of a retread of a retread. New soundtrack, new engine, same game. New soundtrack, new engine, same genre, right? Like on and on and on, with few revolutionary things. EverQuest, probably the most recent one that I can really think of in terms of actual genre, that MMO. And you could argue other companies were doing it before, and MUDs and so forth, but not to that degree of success. But with VR, something like The Assembly, that's the potential, and that's ultimately where all the excitement for me lies, right, is the experience. Because you can even play genres that you don't like regularly. And in VR, it's just a whole different world, whole different ball game. So, again, interested in your guys' thoughts on that. I'll find out more about that game. It's called The Assembly and let you guys know. That's it for the news. I can't wait to get cracking on my VR. Back to that. As always, guys, cheers.